All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Journey of the Soul. This is lesson number 5. And today we have an amazing topic. The topic is reincarnation. Okay, so they tell a story of a man who passes away and he enters heaven. He's granted admission to heaven and he expects to see all sorts of heavenly delicacies, milk and honey, wine and caviar, as one does in heaven. And he's surprised when instead of all that, instead of the large buffet, he's instead handed a container with Chinese food. Little container with Chinese food. And he says to the angel, with all due respect, I love Chinese food. After all, I'm Jewish, right? However, I'm surprised. I thought we would see some more biblical type foods, right? Land flowing with milk and honey and grapes and dates and all this stuff, pomegranates. What's up with the Chinese food? The angel responds, hey, listen, it's just you and me here. I figured we just do takeout. All right. I don't know why that joke, but that's what we got today. So last week, we looked at the Jewish understanding of the afterlife. Takeout's always good. Last week, we looked at the Jewish understanding of the afterlife. We looked at the Jewish concept of heaven and hell. What we explained in short, just to kind of segue into today's class, what we discussed last week in short, is that there is a concept as the soul journeys away from the body. There's a concept called Gehinnom, which is perhaps most accurately translated as purgatory, wherein it's a stage wherein the soul is purged, is cleansed of all of its either indiscretions or even its more subtly material attachments, so that it can fully enjoy the experience one-on-one with God in the afterlife, in paradise, in heaven. All souls, we said, with perhaps some exceptions, all souls go through this process, maximum of 12 months, the process of cleansing, and then the process of experiencing paradise. The question is, and this question comes literally on the heels of last week's class, is that the end of the soul's journey? The soul finishes its mission on earth. It goes through its cleansing process. It then arrives in paradise, where it basks in the divine radiance for all eternity. Is that the end of the story? Does the soul come back down to earth? Is there a thing of reincarnation? Or let's put it this way, does Judaism believe in the concept, the construct, the institution, as it were, of reincarnation? And it's not just, hey, Peter, it's not just a philosophical conversation. Like, does Judaism believe in reincarnation? You see, if reincarnation is a thing, then that might impact how we live our lives, because understanding how and why souls are reincarnated might have a lot of messaging for us in our lives right now. If we knew that we were reincarnated for a specific reason, that might impact how we choose to live our lives. So knowing that, you want to say knowledge is power? Knowledge about souls, about maybe previous lives even, certainly is powerful. So what we're going to do in today's lesson is explore the concept of reincarnation from a powerful Jewish perspective. And we're going to look at a bunch of different questions, including number 1, is this our first time on earth? Number 2, why would a soul be reincarnated? Number 3, if reincarnation is real, why don't we remember our past lives? Number 4, if we are reincarnated after we die, so then when does our soul go to heaven? Or is it pulled out of heaven? Does it go back into heaven? Does it ever find eternal rest? How does that work if souls are coming back? And finally, can human souls be reincarnated in non-human bodies? These are some questions that we are going to address in today's class. You guys ready? This is everything you've ever wanted to know and things you haven't even wanted to know. Like maybe that last question, which is I was like, ugh, non-human bodies? I don't know if I want to know that. Everything you want to know about reincarnation today. A to Z, Aleph through Taf, A to Z in South Africa. Everything is going to get covered. So let's jump right in. I want to begin by taking the temperature of the class and asking you how you feel about reincarnation. Do you like the concept of reincarnation? Or do you not like the concept of reincarnation? Jump in. Okay, raise of hand. Who likes the concept of reincarnation? Who likes it? Wow. All right. Whoa, this is like almost unanimous here. I'm going to say pretty unanimous. Who does not? Let me ask the other one. Who does not like the concept of reincarnation? Does anyone not like the concept? You're on the fence? Okay. All right. If you said that you like the concept of reincarnation, tell me why. Anyone jump in. Huh? You want to come back? It's like the Grateful Dead. Oh wow, what an awkward name. Well, I had to pick that band. But anyway, right? So, or who else goes around? Yeah. Okay. Sorry for losing the three over here. Okay. What else? What else? So coming back, it's good to be back. What else? Other reasons.
I'm thinking maybe I could be reincarnated and come back with
Huh. Saying coming back as another form of being. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Good.
I think I was troubled by a young person passing away, and I was told that that soul that was in that young person had a mission, and that mission was completed, and that was a little comforting. Why the person is that?
In other words, a reincarnated soul that only had a short mission to complete, and that hence this short amount of time, because that was the mission. The mission was up. Yeah, that is definitely said, and there's a story, some very powerful stories about that. Exactly. Okay. Good. Yeah. Right. Right.
Continuously come back to get that, to elevate themselves.
Interesting. Okay. So the idea of an old soul versus a young soul, old soul having much experience and elevating higher. Good. What else? Why else might we like the concept or like to believe in the concept of reincarnation? Why might that be comforting?
We don't die.
So, sorry?
We
Soul
don't
never
die.
dies?
We don't die. The soul doesn't die.
Yeah, soul doesn't die.
We're eternal in a way.
Eternal, not only eternal in heaven, but also eternal coming back on earth. Okay. So there's a cycle of renewal, a life that lives on, a life that lives even here once again, and that can be comforting. Why might someone find the concept of reincarnation not so exciting, not so pleasant? What do you think? Mindy, I know you said you had some mixed emotions, but tell me why you might have felt like, not so excited.
I'm not sure if I can articulate it in words. I don't know. Something about it is like a little uneasy, but I don't know. I'm not sure how to articulate why. I mean, you don't have like you mentioned, like I'd like to come back and see how my great grandchildren are. But like if there is reincarnation and your soul does come back, it has no memory of a previous life. So
right, assuming there's no memory.
It's like someone else. So it's not like we're coming back in a time machine to see our future.
That's a good point.
I mean, we have no memory.
That's a good point. And just to add another piece to it, a person might say, I have my own baggage. What, I need someone else's baggage also? I need to be schlepping around some ancient baggage, some centuries old baggage. I mean, come on. I got my own stuff to deal with. I need some other guy's baggage. And somebody might say, what, my soul is not going to have rest? It's going to have to come back down again? Oy, who wants that? Who needs that? Right? Is my soul destined to be a wanderer, coming in and out of existence? So for some, that might not be so pleasant. And I think these are both valid approaches. And obviously, the initial reaction of everyone here in this room, and as well, it seemed like online as well, is that reincarnation would be a good thing. And yet, there's room to have a conversation about it. What I would like you to do is open up your booklets, please, to page 175. Well, it's really the third page of the booklet, but it's the page marked 175. I'm going to pull it up here online as well. And what we are going to do is do a little bit of a pop quiz. So please pull out your number 2 pencils. I'm kidding. Remember those?
Yes.
Number 2 pencils in school? All right. We are going to do a quick quiz. This will count on your permanent record. So I hope you studied last night. I hope you crammed for this one. All right. You can circle true or false. You don't actually have to, but you might want to. You might actually want to, because you can compare your answers at the beginning of the class versus what we'll learn at the end of the class. I'm going to read the questions. Feel free to fill it in or circle as we go along. Okay, for question number 1, belief in reincarnation is basic to Judaism. True or false? Again, select your answer. Number 2, question number 2. In the Jewish view, reincarnation means that a soul that inhabited one body returns to inhabit another, meaning another body. That's question 2. Circle for yourselves. True or false? Question number 3. A human soul can be reincarnated in a non-human entity such as an animal or plant. What do you think? Is it possible? Can it happen? All right, that's question number 3. Question number 4, and obviously these are all topics that we're going to cover today. Question number 4, a reincarnated soul does not have its own identity, but shares its identity with someone who lived in a previous lifetime. True or false? Again, from actually, no, it's not even from Jewish perspective. Whether you consider this true or false. Okay, good. 5, even easier. 5, the purpose of doing good in one's current lifetime is to be reincarnated as a person of higher status. That's question 5. In other words, we're growing, we're elevating, we're gaining, we're expanding, etc., our consciousness and our virtue as we go through these lives. Question, true or false? Question number 6, again, true or false? A soul is reincarnated as a penalty for sins committed in a prior life. Right? Is reincarnation a penalty? That's question number 6. And question, true or false? Question number 7, true or false? Most souls today are reincarnations. Do you believe that is true or false? Hey, there's no wrong answer because it's how do you feel about it? At the end, we'll see what Judaism says, but this is how what you feel, how you feel about these questions. All right, great. So now that we have kind of the outline of what we're going to cover today, these are all the topics that we're going to explore, and we have our marching orders for the topic. Let's jump into the topic from the beginning and ask the most basic question: is reincarnation a Jewish idea? We certainly know that reincarnation is an idea that's believed in, Eastern religion and philosophies and spiritual paths, etc. Is it also a Jewish thing? Is reincarnation a Jewish idea? The short answer is
Yes.
yes. Yes, that's the short answer. The long answer is a little bit complicated. Who would have thought a long Jewish answer would have a little complication? Shocking. I know. Totally shocking. Not all of the Jewish sages, philosophers agree. One famous one, Rabbi Saadia Gaon, famously says he doesn't believe in reincarnation. Okay, but by and large, the short answer is most Jewish philosophers and Kabbalists, etc., the vast majority say yes, there is reincarnation. Souls are or can be at least reincarnated. And in fact, we see this perspective it's mainstreamed or become mainstream in Jewish practice, in Jewish liturgy. Let me explain. Everyone's familiar with the Siddur, the Jewish prayer book. And man, I'm just looking at the back shelf with the Siddur on the top shelf over there. It's a thick book. I mean, you can get a thinner version. Let me know where you find one, because that's certainly the Cliff Notes is great. No, but all joking aside, the Siddur has prayers for all sorts of occasions. So weekday morning, weekday afternoon, weekday evening, Shabbat morning, Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat, holidays, you name it. And then you have the holidays, the high holidays. Oh, you have a Maxer. That's not the blue book. It's at least for that. It's the red book. Oh, the red book. I don't know who chose the color scheme. Who chose the color scheme that the high holiday prayer book should be red? What are we thinking? Red's usually associated. There's a verse that says, God says, I will turn your sins from crimson red to white. All right. But nonetheless, I guess we're starting with the red, and then the inside, the pages at least are white. But anyway, back to the story. There is a prayer that we recite every night before we go to bed. And it's the most famous Jewish prayer. Help me out here. What prayer do we recite before we go to bed? It's called the Shema prayer. Before the Shema prayer, in many prayer books, we have the following prayer. There's a preamble prayer. Never trust the rabbi when he says, we say a prayer at night. A prayer? A prayer preceded by another prayer, followed by a third prayer, a fourth, please rise, you may be seated, right? You know how that works, right? Everyone's been there. We've all been through the services, right? Like choreography up and down. So let's jump in. Mindy, please take away text number 1. Give me 1 second though. Let me pull this up online. Text number 1. Here's the prayer recited before the Shema.
Master of the universe, I hereby forgive anyone who has angered or vexed me or sinned against me, either physically or financially, against my honor or anything else that is mine, whether accidentally or intentionally, inadvertently or deliberately, by speech or by deed, in this incarnation or in any other.
Bum, bum, bum. So 1 second. 1 second. What just happened here? We have this prayer, and this prayer is, I will say this, of all the prayers, this has got to be in my top 1,000. I'm kidding. This has got to be one of my top favorite ones. It's the prayer recited before the Shema in which we let go before we go to sleep. We say, anyone who's bugged me, who's angered me, whatever, I unilaterally let it go. I harbor no ill feelings. I go to sleep without holding grudges. This is good. It's healthy spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, physically. You want to have a better sleep, better rest? You don't need to buy that new Tempur-Pedic bed, although I heard it's great. What you can also do is recite this prayer and mean it and just let it go. Let it go. Because tomorrow you pick it up again. No, I'm kidding. Just let it go because lots of again, look, it's it. It's over. It's over. Go to sleep. I don't want to hold it. I don't need to hold it. Helps you sleep. But in the language, we go through all the scenarios where somebody might have hurt me. And the last line, well, it's not the last line. The last line that's quoted is, whether they harm me, etc., in this incarnation or in any other. We are releasing and freeing those that might have messed with a previous incarnation of us. What? That's pretty cool. That's pretty incredible. And it also is pretty definitive in saying that, yeah, we do believe in reincarnation. We do believe that our soul may very well have been here before, to the extent that as we let things go, we let things go not just for now, but also for the past. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Pretty clear indication that reincarnation is a thing in Judaism. It's in the Siddur, it's in the prayer book. Now that we've established that little fact, that very important fact, now we need to look at what exactly is reincarnation. Why would a soul be reincarnated in the first place? And what we're going to do is study reincarnation from its foremost expert and exponent, the 16th century mystic, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, known as the Arizal. So he is one of the most famed Kabbalists that ever lived in the 1500s, primarily studied and taught in Tzfat, in Safed, Israel. And he is, he's like the go-to source if you want to know about all things reincarnation from a Jewish and Kabbalistic perspective. He's the guy. So his texts are going to be very, very helpful. And I will say this, that the Arizal's understanding of reincarnation, the way he explains it, is radically different than the Eastern understanding of reincarnation, to the point that we might even say that, remember I told you before that this Rabbi Saja Gaon, he did not believe in reincarnation? We could very well posit that the reincarnation that he didn't believe in is the reincarnation that we also don't believe in. Are you with me on that? I don't think that landed well, or well enough, right? We could say that when Rabbi Saja Gaon said, we don't Jews believe in reincarnation, he might have been saying that Judaism doesn't believe in the reincarnation that is popular, understood as reincarnation. But we have our own version of reincarnation as told by the Kabbalists, which is what we're going to develop now. So here we go. First thing we need to know as we get into reincarnation and understanding the how, why, what, where, etc. of reincarnation is, first thing we need to establish is the interconnectedness of souls. The idea that souls are intimately interconnected and intertwined. So with this in mind, with this little intro in mind, Peter, please read text number 2. This is a quote again from the Arizal. However, let me just explain what's going on here. The Arizal didn't write anything, he taught. So his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, well, one of his students, but his primary student and the one who authored his teacher's teachings, so Rabbi Chaim Vital wrote it down and in a book called Eitz Chaim. So here we go, text number 2.
It all began with one master soul, the soul of Adam, which included all future souls. Subsequently, this master soul passed on to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and was then divided into the 12 tribes. Afterward, the soul was further partitioned among the 70 souls, the descendants of Jacob that accompanied him into Egypt, and eventually among the 600,000 souls who left.
So here we go. Thank you. So what the Arizal teaches, and Rabbi Chaim Vital, his student, writes, is that it all begins with a master soul and then it subdivides. Now, obviously, if you notice, there was like a jump cut, like a cut. If you're like editing video, it goes from Adam to Abraham. It's like, what about the rest of humanity? Well, they have their own story. They could, if this was a text written by another people, then they would probably write this. But this is a Jewish text, Kabbalistic text, explaining the source of Jewish soul. So we start from Adam, then we cut to Abraham, the first Jew, Isaac and Jacob, divided then 12 tribes, 70 souls that came down to Egypt, and then at the time of the Exodus, 600,000 souls who left Egypt. So here we have the concept that all souls, right? When you look at any individual person, any individual soul, it may look disconnected, but in truth, there's a system of interconnected souls, but not just interconnected on a parallel level, but also connected in a way of like roots, trunks, branches, and then branches and forks of the branch. So when you think of a family tree, right? So you might start it with like a patriarch and a matriarch, right? I don't mean like the patriarchs and matriarchs, but like, like a great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother, and then they had a few kids who then had a few kids, and now like here are all the cousins, here are the 50 people here on this generation, and we're all related, and we go up. So what's happening here is that everyone is connected, right? Everyone's connected, but there's also a system of not a hierarchy in the sense of better or worse, but in the sense of, who came first, which generation preceded the other, but then there's also the way that things branch off. So you have like a larger branch that includes smaller branches, which then divides into smaller branches and the smaller branches, right? I'm saying obvious stuff here, yeah? Like the way things branch. Okay, good. So this is the way that Kabbalah understands things, yeah.
And so, what is the Lurianic Kabbalist?
Lurianic Kabbalah is the Kabbalah as taught by Rabbi Isaac Yitzchak Luria. In other words, his branch, or his using the branch, overusing that word, but his field of Kabbalah, it's good, right? His field of Kabbalah is called today by scholars Lurianic Kabbalah. His last name is Luria, so it's Lurianic Kabbalah. It's like somebody would say Solishaic.
I don't realize it was categories.
Kabbalah. Said no one ever.
I don't realize they're like categories.
Yeah, there's other Kabbalah, but this is the most the most mainstream is Lurianic Kabbalah. It's like the most mainstream, 100% Lurianic. Yeah.
So it uses the word this master soul passed on, and then after that it says it was then divided.
Yeah.
So does that mean that it gets diminished when it's divided?
Not necessarily, but thank you for pointing that out. So you have a master soul divided, and then those are divided, and those are divided into more. Think of it as opposed to, so certain things when you divide get less, certain things when you divide, they actually don't get less, they magnify. Okay, let me explain. Power versus influence. Let's talk about this theoretically. Power, so if one person has power, they hold 100% of the power. If you put somebody else together with them, now each of them has 50% of it. Put another, each one has 33.33%, right? So power is divided. But think about the word influence. If you have one person doing something, that's only one person. You add another person, now you have two people doing that. You've now not divided, you have actually multiplied. So power versus influence. So it just depends how you look at it. If you look at it as a power thing, now you have more souls, you have less power in each soul. But if you look at it as an influence thing, on the contrary, it's actually magnifying. Think of it as lighting a flame, taking a candle, lighting another candle. You're not diminishing from the one, you're actually adding another flame. You're multiplying your light with more candles. And yet the point here is that you have like the root that then branches. And then let's say you take this branch, which then further branches, and then another branch branches and forks, right? So you have a thing that forks and forks and forks off of each one. Okay, so that's how the Arizal explains the concept. Yeah.
The 600,000 is that a fixed number, or is that the number of souls that get remixed?
No, because great question. Those 600,000, I should have mentioned this. Those 600,000 that was the root number by the Exodus. Today, there's way more. In other words, it keeps on splitting, it keeps on dividing. Maybe it's like a stock. No, but that does diminish, whatever. But like it splits, right? Keep on splitting and splitting and splitting, and that's how it goes. Now, but again, it's more like a candle with a flame as opposed to, making each value less.
And continue.
Correct. Right. He stops there with that number, but it definitely continues because we're here and there's way more than 600,000 Jewish souls. So here is the idea and the big idea. Every single soul, every individual soul has its own mission, a spiritual mission that it is charged to fulfill. And generally speaking, the mission is comprised and composed of two primary elements: doing mitzvot, good deeds, and studying Torah. And here's the big idea. This is the really big idea. If a soul does not complete its mission, then the elements of the soul that have not found completion are grafted into a new soul branch. You with me on that? Let me explain it a little bit. If we take a look at an individual soul, we can then further subdivide the individual soul into different soul components. Let's call it a soul checklist, but not just a checklist on a sheet of paper, but like parts of the soul that need to be, for lack of a better term, accessed, actualized, lit up, right? Just like lit up. Imagine we have, let's just use a random number, 613 areas of our soul. Right? That need to be illuminated, need to find illumination. Every time we do a mitzvah, that particular element, that specific spark, as the mystics use that term, they like the word spark and light. So that spark of the soul illuminates. We accessed it. We did that mitzvah, we got it. But what happens if a person lives their life and does not get done all of the things that it needs to get done for whatever reason? So now you have outstanding soul sparks that have not been actualized. So what happens? So those elements that have not found completion are then grafted into, or then spawned into, a new branch soul, a derivative soul that is branched off of that original soul that then carries forth that mission. Does that make sense? Sort of. Huh?
But you said it's grafted onto a future soul.
No, it's grafted onto a branch soul that branches off.
Where is that branch soul?
That comes down to earth. In other words,
Up there.
as we'll see soon, it's not that the original soul comes back down. It's that elements from the original soul that didn't find completion, the elements that weren't completed, they are kind of morphed into a new branch soul, or they inspire a new branch soul that then carries on the mission of its root soul. So roots and branches. I mean, think of it. The terminology. It's hard, it's hard to figure out the right terminology for this. But think about parents and children. Think about it that way, right? A child is their own person, and yet they share the DNA of the parent. This is not that dissimilar, where a child, or what I'm calling a branch soul, coming from a root soul, not necessarily the original root soul. That was like the master root soul was Adam, but like whichever precedes the other soul would be the root soul to the branch soul. So you have a soul, didn't finish its mission. It has some unfinished business. So essentially God, from that soul, God branches, forks off another soul that then carries the residual, kind of the rollover of what it didn't accomplish. And now it moves into a new space, a new soul that carries forth this mission. Yeah.
You have uncompleted mission. You have
Yes.
completed mission.
Correct.
Completed mission stays in paradise.
Correct. That's what we're going to get to soon. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, the mission will be complete.
Correct.
That soul.
And everything lights up.
Right.
Oh, look at these.
So souls have a limited there is a defined existence.
Correct.
It's when when fragments are all finished, okay.
When the mission is finally done, then there's completion all the way through. But every derivative soul also has its own identity, because a derivative, a branch soul, also has its own mission. It carries over the mission of the original, but it also has now its own mission.
The element of the incomplete is when it's completed, it goes back. Is it unified with?
Yeah, those souls will be in proximity, because like a family, they would be families of souls. Exactly.
And that soul is at a commission.
Correct. Now, we covered a lot of ground here, but let's read the text inside, because I think it's going to clarify. If it's not yet fully gelled, don't worry. It shouldn't be fully gelled yet. Let's go through some texts and let's see how the Ari Sollish develops this idea. Again, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, how he develops these ideas. Give me 1 second. Let's pull this up. Okay, Lisa, please read text number 3. But before you read it, let me explain what text 3 is saying. I said before that in Judaism, the spiritual mission of the soul is comprised of 2 elements: doing mitzvot and studying Torah. We each have our own, as it were, checklist. And if there's any unfinished business, that would create the need for reincarnation, i.e. a branch soul that branches off of the original soul to continue its mission and get the job done. Let's see how this plays out vis-a-vis mitzvot, good deeds.
Furthermore, you must know that every person must fulfill all of the 613 mitzvot. If a soul does not fulfill all 613 mitzvot in action, speech, and thought, it must be reincarnated until it completes them all.
Look at that. Okay. I know what everyone's thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, I got my work cut out for me.
Oh.
No, maybe. What? I can't say what you were thinking.
No, I just want to go I would want to fall short, so I come back.
Oh, you would? Oh, you want to throw the game? Oh, look at this guy. All right. No, he's saying, no, on the contrary, he's like, I don't want to get it all done. I'll come back. No, but the key here is it's not the same you that comes back.
Yeah.
It's a branch soul. It's not the original soul. This is the biggest, and we're going to develop this. This is the biggest distinction between Jewish reincarnation and the Eastern understanding of reincarnation. It's not recycled souls. It's not the same soul coming back in different bodies. This is a branch of the soul, a derivative soul, right? And this soul inspired that soul from the creators of soul 1 comes soul 2. The adventure continues. This is how Judaism looks. You guys don't like my movie trailers, but okay, yeah.
13 you can't do unless it's the temple.
Oh,
So
excellent.
It's gonna be like people who did those.
I want to repeat your question so everyone hears. Mindy's asking a question. 1 second. Everyone's got to do 613 mitzvot. We can't. There's less than half of them that are applicable today because we have no temple. There's half of them, over 50%, are related to the temple or temple era. So that's why he says in action, speech, and thought, some of them you can only fulfill today in thought. Some only in speech by learning about it or thinking about it. And that might be okay, as long as you get some element of it. But I will tell you, there's certain mitzvot that you can only do if you're a man, and certain ones that I'm sure we can figure out which one that is. And then certain ones you can only do, certain ones that you can do if you're a woman. So certain are gender specific. In which case, what we're saying here is it's almost like it's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, you messed up. You're gonna have to cut. It's gonna have to be. It's almost like it's almost necessary. Not everyone's a Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael at the same time either. Like everyone's got different roles, and therefore it's very hard for one soul to get everything done. So there's probably a need for every soul to have some element of reincarnation, unless somebody is like such a master spiritualist that they can spiritually conjure up the mitzvah of, like I said before, like the temple times and another gender, etc. That would be, it's possible, but that's like more in the realm of a tzaddik who can, conjure that up. Let's.
From the temple times, they did those.
It could be, but those. Okay, it could be older souls. However, as we'll see soon, it's not so simple because there's a limit, as we'll see soon, how many times this process runs. You will see soon how that works. It doesn't keep on going that doesn't branch off indefinitely. Yes, well, yeah, I will explain soon. Yeah.
It was my understanding that a Sodic is the only one that is even close to fulfilling all 613.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a tzaddik is defined by not only behavioral perfection, but also by internal perfection, like not wanting even to do the wrong thing. But I don't know, a lot of people do a lot of mitzvahs. I'm not saying that everyone, gets it done, first try. But, it's good to know we have a few rounds of this. Now let's take a look at text number 4. Rose, please read text number 4. Now, text number 4 is in the same source where he continues, just like it's by mitzvot, that a reason for reincarnation could be because a person didn't get all the 613 done. The same thing is true with Torah study. And here we go.
You should also realize that each individual must study all 4 of the Torah's layers, which are referred to by their acronym Pardes or Chud. These are Peshat, Remez, Derush, and Sod, literal, allusion, exegetic, and mystical. It is necessary for a soul to be reincarnated repeatedly until it completes them all.
So just when you thought, all right, mitzvahs, I got a number, all right, we're going to tackle this project. I got my Sundays, right? Forget the gardening. Let's do this. Let's get this done. But now we're throwing another element. And the other element is, now we also have to study Torah on all 4 levels. Sharem Shusod. It's like, great. All right. There goes all my free time. So there's a lot of angles to this. And the point is, the bottom line is that whether it's the mitzvahs or whether it's the Torah study, the point is that every soul has its mission. And so long as it has not completed its mission fully. Now, one second, let me pause here for a moment. Because I think we all say, or we've all heard, or maybe we believe that souls pass away when their mission is complete. Right? Correct? Like, when a person passes away, it means they completed their mission. The implication of this is not exactly. There can be a situation where there is unfinished business. And not only can there be, I would say in most cases, there is still unfinished business. So how does that work? How do we say that there's unfinished business, even as we say that the soul completed its mission upon its passing? I guess we have to say, and we have to conclude, that it completed, let's say, the bulk of its mission, the primary elements of its mission, right? That constitutes living a fulfilled life. And yet at the same time, there are elements that still weren't done. We didn't get all the details done. We didn't get all the pieces done. And therefore, those elements that have not found completion, that have not been lit up, that have not been accessed, that have not been actualized, the potential or the mission that's not been actualized, that branches off, or that spawns a new soul that continues on with that mission to carry on the residual unfinished business of that original or that root soul. And at the same time, it also has its own mission to complete. And so, just to summarize this piece before we go further, what we're seeing here is that every soul has its mission to complete. Every soul has what it needs to access, elevate, refine. Every soul has its connection with God to maximize. And when a soul does not complete its mission in its entirety, when there's still some unfinished business, those unfulfilled sparks of the soul are reincarnated into a newly grafted branch soul. That again has its own mission, but also carries on residual mission of that root soul. Make sense? No?
No.
It's different. It's what Judaism teaches you.
I don't even know enough to ask the question.
Okay, well, let's keep on going. It's going to get further clear. So far we've learned a few things regarding reincarnation. Number 1, souls are interconnected, not just on parallel levels, but also like roots and branches. Each soul has a mission, the mitzvot and Torah study. And when a soul does not complete its mission, that is almost bequeathed, that is passed along to a new branch soul. But let's go a little bit deeper. And as we go deeper, we're going to see a pretty vast distinction between the Jewish understanding of reincarnation and other religious beliefs. So turn a few pages to text number 6. We're going to skip to text number 6. And it's very important to explore text 6, where the Arizal, again, the same Kabbalist, clarifies a critical truth regarding reincarnation, which will differentiate it from other forms of reincarnation. So here we go. 1 second. Text 6. Let me pull this up. All right. Oh, good question. I heard your question. Your question is, hold on, if I'm getting a residual mission from someone else and I have my own mission, do I have to do it twice? No. Because we said every soul has to do 630 mitzvahs. Sure. But the primary role of this soul is to fulfill the previous stuff. If it fulfills the previous stuff, then if it doesn't do its own new stuff, as they say in Yiddish, nicht gefährlich. It's not so terrible. The priority is what it carries on residually, the rollover. Remember rollover minutes? You guys remember rollover minutes? Singular wireless. I was a time when I had thousands of rollover minutes for nights and weekends. Oh, a different time, a different era. All right, Mike, we're up to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, please read text number 6. Souls are not recycled.
Although we've stated in numerous passages of this treatise that a specific individual soul was reincarnated in a particular person, and it was subsequently reincarnated in another specific individual, and so on, do not misread this as implying that the original soul itself is reincarnated repeatedly. Rather, each human soul branches out into innumerable roots. Every root contains an infinite quantity of soul sparks. With each subsequent reincarnation, a number of these sparks are rectified, and they ascend to enjoy the rewards of heaven and dwell in a particular strata of Gan Eden that are appropriate for them. However, those soul sparks that were not rectified are reincarnated to provide further opportunity for rectification.
So any part of the soul that's been maximized, actualized, lit up, refined, whatever language you want to use, any part of the soul that's done its mission enjoys paradise. Gan Eden enjoys the Garden of Eden, enjoys heaven and paradise. It enjoys. The parts that still have some unfinished business, again, they have opportunity for rectification in the branch soul, the derivative soul that branches off of that soul. This is why in Hebrew, reincarnation, the Hebrew word for reincarnation. Does anybody know the Hebrew word for reincarnation? Well, then I can just make it up. No, I'm kidding. So the Hebrew word for reincarnation is Gilgul. Oh yeah, Gilgul. What does Gilgul mean?
Circular.
A circle. A circle. Rollover. A rollover, right? What's rollover? As I just said, rollover minutes. Rollover means that it's Gilgul. It's not the same soul recycling. It's rolling over in the sense carrying forward of unfulfilled sparks from one soul to the other. So again, reincarnation is the process by which a new soul is grafted and generated from the part of an old soul that wasn't fulfilled in order that it find fulfillment. And I use the word grafting intentionally. Think about when you take, what's a graft? You take a thing, I don't know, what am I, a gardener? But like, whatever, conceptually, you take it and you graft a new thing from the thing. Take a plant, a branch, you graft it, and now something else grows. It's not the original that's growing. It's a derivative of the original that's growing. But it's grafted from, it's being spawned from, inspired by, right? From the creators of, this is the new thing that's yeah.
Have to be like when we say the soul lives on, and if let's say the offspring of someone who died, you know, you hear people say in honor of my father, every year on his birthday, I'm going to serve a dinner to, and I'll
Sure.
just do a mitzvah.
Yeah.
And then they pass that on to their children, that this is something that we do, like, is that kind of a thing?
That was last week. That we said was last week. That's no, I'm saying that is beneficial, and that boosts the soul above, and that's a credit to the soul above, and all that's great. We're talking about unfinished business when it gets done. The alternative is to believe that a person can pass away and a soul can pass away with elements unrectified and unfulfilled of the soul. And it will remain forever with potential that was not yet maximized. In Judaism, Kabbalah doesn't believe in that. It says there is an opportunity for that to be rectified and actualized. There's another opportunity for that to happen, and that is where reincarnation comes in. That is the role of reincarnation. Literally, the role of reincarnation, ROLE, is that it provides an opportunity for unfinished business to get finished. As opposed to just boosting the original soul, that's when we do a mitzvah, give tzedakah, study Torah in honor of a loved one. That's what that does, it boosts that soul. But we're talking about something else. We're talking about literally carrying on unfinished business of a prior soul to get the job done, to do what they weren't able to do for whatever reason. And how do we identify that? We'll get that a little.
So you have these 613 things that need to get done.
Yeah.
And what about like Jews that don't do any of these things? What happens to their soul?
I believe the Talmud says that every Jew is filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate is filled with seeds, which means that even if we're unintentional about it, we do plenty of mitzvot of good deeds throughout our lifetime. So I personally would never say that, like, oh, person passed away, they did nothing, they had no mitzvahs. They had plenty of mitzvahs.
Like a Reformed Jew is not gonna do what an Orthodox Jew is.
Yeah, now listen, labels are for suits, not for Jews. Said labels are for suits, not for Jews. Not labeling. You know the joke about the lady who walks into the post office, in December. She's like, I would like to buy the Hanukkah stamps. And the clerk says, in what denomination? She says, oh, even the stamps have different denominations. It doesn't matter. A Jew is a Jew. And everyone, we all have mitzvahs, good deeds. I would say every human being has good deeds, but every Jew, specifically talking about Jewish souls and Jewish mission, 613 mitzvot, you got plenty of Jews.
That helped me a lot.
Hold on one second. I've never taught a class with the intention to lay guilt or make it. So if that's the way it came out, I apologize. This is not at all intended. On the contrary. I'm not gonna listen. I'm not the one to decide what is and what isn't. I don't keep count. I don't keep track. That's not my job, huh? Yeah. Listen. Again. Yeah. There's plenty. Okay. One second. Time out. The purpose of this, in my intention, in my perspective, this is actually, I think, liberating. This is saying we don't have only one shot to get it right. What it means is there are multiple opportunities, right? We get as much as we can done, and then whatever still needs to get done, there's another shot. And it doesn't mean that our soul is being tossed around, from one side to the other side to get it done. It means we have whatever we did, we enjoy, and whatever still needs to be fixed, great. Schmerl over there, the derivative soul will take care of it. Let him take care of it. I'm going to enjoy the vacation, right? And when he gets what I need to done, when he gets those sparks, come and join me. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, all right, great. Family reunion. That's the way it is. This is not intended as a negative, as a doom and gloom thing. At least, again, in the way I see it. On the contrary, it's like I think it's a lot of pressure alleviated. At least that's the way I see it. Yeah, Ronnie.
Is there a consciousness of these unfinished business?
So we'll talk about that. I mean, ask yourself the question: do you know what pieces you're holding? Okay, so I think and that's what you were saying before, Mindy, about not knowing. So I think all we have to do is ask ourselves the question: do I immediately know why well, we haven't established that we are necessarily reincarnated souls, but okay. The answer to your question is we'll explore it soon in the class. Yeah.
And does Rabbi Ari get into the accounting of all this, or that there is an accounting of this?
Oh, interesting. He is the CFO I'm kidding. He talks about reincarnated souls, and he maps some famous souls reincarnated throughout history. He says, like, this was a this rabbi or this leader was a reincarnation. Yeah, he goes through it. But again, and he clarifies, and that's what he says in text 6, right? Although we've stated, I'm just going to repeat the opening, although we've stated in numerous passages that a specific individual soul was reincarnated in a particular person. In other words, he gave names and dates to that. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean it's the same soul being recycled in a new body. The original soul has rest, has Gan Eden, enjoys it. It's only whatever needed to get finished, needed to get fixed, needed tikkun, that comes, that it's not even that it comes down. It spawns another soul that carries on that mission to fix it and has the opportunity to get it done. It's kind of like a relay race. Think of it as a relay race. You're passing the baton. You're not going around all the time yourself. Yeah. After. Hold on. Good question. Does it start right away? It probably doesn't start right away. Probably like it's shaped. Purgatory, remember, is not to fix unfinished business. It's the cleanse of the material attachment and negativity. So once the cleansing, so then all the negative is shook out. And that's not the word. Is shaked out. Shaken out. Thank you. English is shaken out. But still, even without the dirt, it's not everything is lit up. So now we got to sort it out. But the truth is, the timeline, my guess would be it's after you take care of that, then you get into in the positive realm, you get rid of the negative. Now in the positive realm, okay, what needs to still get optimized? Could it be reincarnated right away? Maybe. I don't know. Now, this is the basic idea of reincarnation in Kabbalah. Yeah. Right. So the Gehinnom, right, purgatory is for, it's almost like the damaged parts, or like the negative, but the unfulfilled or unrectified, whatever, the parts that weren't maximized, that's where reincarnation comes out or comes in. Now, I'm just reading my notes here. Okay. Yeah. So the soul sparks that are grafted or that branch out, so those have the residual mission. They carry on the mission of whatever was unfinished, and they have their own mission of 613 mitzvot, 4 levels of Torah. But again, it's important, and I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it now. The primary mission of this new branch soul is the rectification of its reincarnated soul sparks. Not because otherwise it would never end. So it's the primary mission is the unfinished business. At the same time, it has a full suite of its life to take care of, etc. But there are certain core points to its mission. This is going to be very impactful when we think about our own lives, assuming that we are also a reincarnated soul. We are one of these grafted soul branches, and thinking about, okay, so why am I here? Now, obviously, we have, we should hit everything or as much as possible, but there are certain core mitzvot, core areas of work that are really about our life's mission. Okay, so far, we have explored the typical form of reincarnation. And simply, again, the purpose is to rectify unfulfilled sparks by a new generated branch soul. But there are other variations of reincarnation. So here are 2 more. So number 1 is partial reincarnation. So sometimes, instead of the unfulfilled soul sparks generating a new branch soul, they instead append themselves to an existing adult soul. Are you with me? Instead of those soul sparks generating a new soul that is then born, etc., and then lives its life, sometimes unfulfilled soul sparks can actually just append themselves to an adult, to a person's soul, who's living, who's currently living, not who will be born, but who's living. We call this Ibur in Kabbalah. Ibur means literally pregnancy. This is called the Ibur form of reincarnation, in the sense that it's not a new soul that's born or grafted. This is Ibur. This is like a pregnancy, which means that you're carrying around another, right? It's pregnancy. You're carrying around another life inside of you, right? So this is, you're carrying another, a part of another soul within you. Yeah.
So how would that get into?
Text 7a. Let's read it inside. All right, I'm going to read this. Yeah. God. Very busy. God is very busy. I don't know if there are angels in charge of this, but it's all the CEO's God. Definitely. Okay, text 7a. I'm going to do some reading. Here we go. 1 second. Let's get this up. Okay, text 7a. The concept, soul impregnation. The concept of Gilgul reincarnation is that a soul requiring further rectification enters the body of a child as it emerges from its mother's womb to serve as the newborn soul. It has no permission to leave that individual until the person's destined day of death. By contrast, that's typical reincarnation. By contrast, the concept of Ibor, soul impregnation, is that a soul enters an adult body that is already inhabited by a soul. The person's primary soul received at birth. In this case, the individual is merely impregnated with a guest soul in addition to harboring a primary soul. The individual then carries the extra soul, much as a woman carries a child in her womb. Now you're thinking, what?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? That's crazy. 1 second, let's continue 7b. 7b. So this is not grafting or generating a new soul. This is a temporary situation. This is a temporary situation. Why would it be a temporary situation? Let's take a look at text 7b. A soul experiences Ibor, this soul impregnation, for one of two reasons. A, the impregnated soul comes to an individual for its own sake. In the previous life, it failed to perform a particular mitzvah and was therefore left lacking. This was the kind of mitzvah that was impossible to perform under the conditions of that lifetime, such as the mitzvah of Yibum, Chalitza, and the like. That's where a woman's husband dies and she has a mitzvah to marry the brother-in-law, or the brother-in-law has the opportunity to not marry her. Like the different. So, like, what if that scenario never played out? Well, then I never had that mitzvah. So that soul, or that part of the soul, would append itself in a situation where it would have the opportunity to do that. It is therefore not obligated to engage in a full-scale incarnation described earlier in this treatise. For soul impregnation is sufficient. It basically it appends itself to someone who is having the opportunity to do that mitzvah, experiences as a kind of +1 that mitzvah, and then is out. Are you with me? It's a hitchhiker. Correct. It's a hitchhiker. It is just along for the ride, for that experience, to get the experience. It had the experience. It returns back to the rest of the soul. It's not the whole soul. It's that spark of the soul. Again, the language of Kabbalah, soul sparks. It's the spark of the soul that was lacking, that never had an opportunity or wasn't fulfilled. Now it pens itself. So if there's a lot to get done still, so then it will graft a new soul. Because there's a few things that if it's one thing, you gotta create a whole new soul just for one thing.
So
It's inefficient. So it's just gonna pop on and pop out.
So it leaves. The soul,
Yeah.
When after that's done.
This is not being possessed. This is different. This is like a +1 that you don't know about. It's like, hey, who are you? I'm sensing something. But this is one way to do it. By the way, this is only one scenario of the reason why this would happen. There's a B. There's part B to 7b. Take a look. The second reason why this could happen is the impregnated soul comes solely to assist an individual. This is not for the original soul's benefit. This is for the host's benefit, to provide an extra boost of soul, to bring a person additional merit, or to guide an individual in matters of Torah mitzvot. In this case, the impregnated soul lacks nothing for itself. This would be like the soul of a tzaddik, or the soul of a righteous person, the soul of a guru, like a spiritual guru, like a boss who comes in and says, "Hey, let me help this guy out. Let me do some soul attachment temporarily to help this person through whatever they need a boost for," and then the soul segues back. This is the way that Rizal explains it. About traffic. Got it. Oh, it answers. Okay, perfect. So again, standard reincarnation is a few things that still need to be finished. We'll graft a new soul, has its own mission, carries on the previous mission. Bada bing, bada boom. In this case, it's like there's two scenarios. Either there's one thing that the soul didn't do. In that case, because it couldn't have done. It's not like it missed an opportunity. It's not like it had the opportunity and it just missed it. No, it couldn't. It never had the opportunity to do the mitzvah. And it's only one mitzvah, maybe two mitzvahs. So it appends itself to someone who is having that experience. It's along for the ride. It experiences the mitzvah. And by virtue, by proximity of being attached to that soul, it lights up and it's good to go. The second reason for Ibor would be to give a boost to the host soul by appending its energy. So either it has this Ibor because it's lacking something, one thing, or because it's so complete that it can help the other soul that it's attaching itself to. Yes? It's like, they sell these like battery cases for phones where you can like put your phone in a case, but also has a battery. And so it's not just a case, but it's actually like boosting your phone, charging your phone, giving an extra boost. That would be part B, like giving the boost to an existing soul through an external battery, i.e. a part of a soul. Now, here we go. I mentioned this before. Can human souls be reincarnated in non-human forms? That's the question. Here we go. To answer this, we're going to ask another question. Is there a limit to how many times this process plays itself out? The Arizal says, yes, there is a limit, text number 8. Text number 8, page 185. Okay, let's go through this together. When a human soul comes to the world and becomes soiled by sin in the process, it reincarnates in another body to rectify itself. Now, I don't know, soiled by sin, maybe it's more of like lacking opportunities, whatever. It reincarnates in another body to rectify itself. That second life is its first reincarnation. If it fails to rectify itself during that lifetime, it may return in a second reincarnation. If it again fails to find rectification, it may endure a third reincarnation. After that, however, say 3 strikes and you're out. After that, however, listen, God runs things like baseball. After that, however, it is no longer provided opportunities for rectification via reincarnation. But what happens to the soul? Uh-oh, it still is unfulfilled. So what happens? Text number 9. Here we have another option. Behold, God does all these twice or thrice with man. Job, the limitation of twice or thrice applies with man, meaning that a human soul is not subsequently reincarnated in a human body. Rather, it is forced to wander the planet until it's reincarnated in an inanimate, vegetative, or animal entity. Then, after it has done its penance, there is hope for its future, for God's endless mercies extend to all of his creatures. The implication of this text is that non-human reincarnation is not an upgrade. It's actually I guess the word is punishment for not getting it right after 3, as a consequence, after not getting it right after 3 subsequent, it's really 4 lifetimes, right? There's original, and then 3 more reincarnations, 3 more opportunities to get that original mission done. And then if it still doesn't get it right, then the human soul endures the situation of being in a non-human body, which certainly would feel a little bit disjointed, correct? I mean, imagine being in a situation where you can't express yourself fully. Like you have human soul qualities, but you don't have the human, you have the software of a human being, but you don't have the hardware to be able to accomplish that. So that would be a little bit out of place for the soul. That, as we said, kind of by Gehinnom, that experience of not having the ability to express oneself fully, that is painful for the soul, and that serves to as a tikkun, as a rectification for the soul.
There's a difference between sin and failure to complete the mission.
Wait, say that again.
There's a difference between sin and the failure to complete the mission.
Yeah.
Sin, I think is more active.
Right.
As opposed to what maybe
100%. 100%. So typically, I mean, conceptually, both would create an opportunity for reincarnation.
Yes.
Because Gehinnom shakes off the dust a little bit. But if there's some stuff that still like was damaged or whatever, there may be a need to fix that, the reincarnation.
But in sin, in the failure to complete the mission, is that limited to the recycling? Is sin only limited to the 3 strikes?
You're saying if somebody actively sins opposed to not fulfilling its mission. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because text 8 implies soiled by sin in the process, then you have a limit. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a good question. We would have to look at that to see if that limit only applies by sin as opposed to acts of omission, say commission versus omission. Maybe it's only sins of commission that kind of have a limit to how many times you can fix that piece of it, whereas sins of omission, all right, you can try again, right? 3 strikes, you're out. Stay up there. Get some more pitches. Yeah, it's like batting practice. We'll give you some more. It's a good question. Typically, I always heard the number 3, but you're right. When you look at text 8, he seems to almost imply that it's specifically vis-a-vis sin. I don't know. Okay. Now, the personal question would be for each of us. So, where are we in this story? Like, are we reincarnated souls? Who was I? Where was I? Who am I? So Kabbalah teaches, to cut to the chase, to cut to the bottom line of this, is that by and large, all of us today are reincarnated souls. It is almost a certainty, the way Kabbalah teaches us, that you and I are generated from soul sparks that are still awaiting completion. That we are carriers of, we have our own mission certainly, and that's great, but we are carriers of a prior mission as well, which begs the question, so who was I?
How many souls can come into make the new soul?
Typically it's 1 for 1.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not a conglomerate. It's not like I need a team of souls to carry out this mission. It's like, you're trying to replace someone. It's like we had to hire a team to replace this one person. No, it's typically 1 to 1. 1 to 1.
So once you strike out 3 times, and just for example, you're reincarnated as a rock.
Yeah.
Is that the end? So no more, the whole process stops.
Then there's tikkun, and then it rectifies, and then, sorry?
Well, I was gonna ask that same question when the last 2 lines says there's hope for the future.
Yeah.
Mercy.
Yeah, in other words.
So once you're a rock,
Yeah.
how do you then get hope for the future?
No, the idea is that through that painful experience, that itself is the tikkun. The rectification happens through. Correct. And it's the soul feeling that it's stuck in a rock, in the body of a rock, as it were. That itself cleanses the soul. It's like cleansing by fire, almost like by the pain itself cleanses. And that itself gives.
That's penance.
Yes, that itself is the tikkun for the soul. Sometimes tikkun happens through pain. It's like forged by fire. It's like purifying. We had it like with Gehinnom. It's like purifying metal by heating it up.
When you said that a leftover mission
Yeah.
is our more important thing before it does its own mission.
Yeah.
Would that be feeling in somebody that maybe they're like driven to do something?
We're gonna get to, so right, perfect segue. That's exactly what we're gonna get to right now. So that's exact. So Kabbalah says that all of us, pretty much most of us, if not all of us, are reincarnated souls, which then begs the question, so can I know my soul's history so I know what I should be doing? So we're gonna do a few more texts and we're gonna close it out. Text number 10. This is what the Ramak says, a great Kabbalist, or Moshe Cordovero. He says the following: it is impossible, one second. Yeah, it is impossible to deduce or intuit whether one possesses a reincarnated soul or not, unless one is the recipient of a mystical communication in this regard. In other words, unless you were told, there's no way to figure it out on your own. You may wonder, how then will we know the purpose for which we enter this world? Which mitzvah we must scrupulously perform, or which transgression we must especially avoid? In other words, if we're carrying unfinished business, it probably first and foremost, right, as you just said, we need to at least get that right. But wouldn't it be helpful to know what those are? Let's continue. The answers are naturally ingrained in us. We experience natural affinity and longing to perform a certain mitzvah when that mitzvah is critical to our present incarnation, or the opposite. Our inclination strives especially hard to entice us to commit a particular sin, for it is the very same sin in which we blunder during our previous life. So, in other words, whether we're drawn to a mitzvah or whether we are pulled in a negative direction, any area in which we feel a special tug, a strong pull, whether positive or negative, that is typically the rule of thumb, the indication that may just be your soul mission for which you were reincarnated, i.e. for which you were spawned as a branch soul. So if you're drawn, if it's like, wow, I really enjoy volunteering, I really enjoy wrapping tefillin, I really enjoy whatever it is, blowing the shofar, I don't know. Like, if you really have a mitzvah that you enjoy, great, lean into that. That very well might be because that is your primary mission as a reincarnated soul. If there's something that you find exceedingly difficult to, like you find yourself like pulled away from anything that there's a magnetic pull toward or away, those are typically the areas to lean into. Yeah.
Maybe you're given the same sin you had previously for the chance to do tshuva.
Take a look at text 11. along those lines, exactly what you said. This is a letter that the Rebbe wrote to someone who wrote to him about challenges in Shalom Bayit, in marital harmony. Look what he writes. I'm replying to your letter. This is text 11. It's text 11. Here we go. I'm replying to your letter in which you inform me that you accepted and are implementing my directives regarding Torah study classes and giving charity. But as far as the situation at home is concerned, your marital harmony appears only superficially to have improved, while the underlying reality remains unsatisfactory. I already told you in my previous letters that it would be challenging. You are meant to find it difficult, but the success of your life's mission hinges upon your sincere efforts toward marital harmony. That line is like, I don't know if the right word is scary, but that's so intense. Let's continue. Our mystical teachings reveal that rare individuals are born with original souls. The rest of us are reincarnations. We return to complete the fulfillment of the mitzvot that we missed in previous lifetimes. Certainly, we are obligated in all of the mitzvot in every lifetime, but the specific mitzvot we omitted in earlier incarnations are critical to the rectification of our souls and the rectification of this world. Using the evil inclination as a guide, look at that line. Using the evil inclination as a guide. Find what you find most difficult. That is your guide. It's crazy. Using the evil inclination opposes the mitzvot that we finalized. One second, let me read this. Our inclination opposed the mitzvot that we finalized in previous lifetimes, but only to the degree necessary to create free choice between good and evil. By contrast, it unleashes a fierce storm of opposition with countless hurdles and challenges when we approach a mitzvah. Many hurdles to marital harmony reveal its indispensability to your rectification. Do whatever it takes to achieve harmony. This is this is crazy. The Rebbe is literally telling this guy, you're telling me how difficult it is? I get it. The reason, you know why it's so difficult? This is literally why you're here. It's literally why you're here. The stuff that's not so hard, okay, do it also. But that's not why you're here. You're here for the stuff that you find hard or the stuff that you find easy. It's not only make an effort. Realize that this is the point. To tap out at this, for this would be to miss, would it be to miss a detail? Be to miss the point. You with me on this? It's not like another, like, well, I have 613 things that I could do, and this is one of them. If I miss it, I miss it. You know, whatever. At least I tried. 1 second. 1 second. There's no trying here. This is why you're here. Imagine if you knew. Imagine if you were told and had certainty the reason why your soul is here, not just to make the world a better place. Come on, that's generally, but specifically this mitzvah. Imagine if you knew that, right? What would your reaction be? Okay, let me do everything I can to get this right. That's the point. Find the thing that you struggle with the most. There you go. That's one clue. That just might be it. So this is a huge idea. This is a huge idea. God leads us to our sparks, not almost, but through the evil inclination as a guide. Now, let's continue. There's a third element. Number one, there's three ways that you can know what your soul's mission is specifically, i.e. what your reincarnated mission is to get done primarily. Number one, that which you are spiritually attracted to, right? The mitzvahs that you're excited about. Great, number one. Lean into that. Number two, that which you find it most difficult to do. That's what you find the most opposition. Second clue. Number three, text 12. This is also a text that describes the same idea. From the moment that God instructed our forefather Abraham, go from your land, Lech Lecha, following which it is stated Abraham kept traveling further southward, the mystical process of the rectification of divine sparks was launched. Subsequently, by decree of divine providence, individuals traveled to the locations in which the divine sparks that these specific individuals must rectify await their redemption. Saintly individuals with spiritual vision perceive the locations in which their divine sparks await their engagement, and they take the initiative to journey to those locations. The rest of us are left in the hands of the primary cause behind all causes and the ultimate reason behind all reasons, i.e. God. God orchestrates countless apparent causes and circumstances, i.e. coincidences, to bring specific individuals to the locations in which their predestined service of rectification is required. Rectification would be tikkun. In other words, where do you need to be? What do you need to do? God finds a way to put you in contact, to put you face to face with what you need to get done. If you were a mystic, you would be able to know where to go. You would be able to travel toward that location. If you're not a mystic, then just follow the road that kind of opens before you, which means, and in less flowery words, the person asked themselves the question, well, I don't know, I don't remember my prior lifetime. I don't remember, or not even my prior lifetime, but the prior lifetime of my prior soul, my root soul. I'm not aware of my root soul. I don't know what it was like. I don't know what it got done. I don't know what it didn't get done. So now I'm supposed to be living the branch soul life, hashtag branch soul life, right? Follow me on my vlog, branch soul life, right? Like there's van life, branch soul life, whatever, everyone's doing their thing, right? So I'm living my branch soul life, living my best branch soul life, but what does that mean? I wish I knew what that meant. So again, three points. Number one, find what you're excited about, lean into that. Number two, what you find most challenging, lean into that. And number three, when you find yourself in unexpected places or wherever you find yourself, know that there's probably likely a mission in that place, in that opportunity. That's why you're where you are. God guides our footsteps to put us exactly where we need to be. And even though we think that we made choices and we're there because, we figured out where we're going to be, at the end of the day, so much of life is outside of our control and guided. I would say even a simple question, why are you here? Not only why you're here today, but why are you in Atlanta? Just ask yourself that question and think about all of the factors that went into you being in Atlanta, right? Whether, even if you were born here, like what led to others being here, and you will see that so much of it could have gone either way. Could have literally gone either way. But I went this way. I went this way because you're meant to be here and meant to do the opportunities, to do to take the opportunities that present themselves. Give me 1 second. Let me formally close that out, and then we'll take questions. So now that we've studied the Jewish understanding of reincarnation, what I want to do is look back at the 7 opening questions very quickly. Very quick. We're going to do this together. Don't worry. Save space. Do this together. Page 175. The true or false questions. Remember that? Here we go. Let's go through them one at a time. 1 second. Let me pull up this on our screen here as well. 1 second. Question number 1. Belief in reincarnation is basic to Judaism. True or false? Yep. Correct. In the Jewish view, reincarnation means that a soul that inhabited one body returns to inhabit another. True or false?
No, it's not.
False. A soul that inhabits one body does not return to inhabit another. It's not the same soul. It's not the same. Very important. It's not the same soul. It's a branch soul. It's a new soul. It's a grafted soul. It's a derivative soul. It's a child soul. It's not the same soul. Text number 3. Text number 3. A human soul can be reincarnated in a non-human entity such as an animal or plant. True or false? Correct. True. Number 4. A reincarnated soul does not have its own identity, but shares its identity with someone who lived in a previous lifetime. Oof. It does have its own identity, and it shares identity with someone. What did I have in my notes for that? It has its own identity. It has its own identity. So that would be false. That would be false. It has its own identity. It also carries forth a mission, etc., but it has its own identity. It definitely has its own identity. It has its own identity. It also it's like a child. A child has its own identity. It also carries the DNA of the parent. In this case, we would say the primary mission is the one that's coming from before, but it still has its own identity. Question number 5. The purpose of doing good in one's current lifetime is to be reincarnated as a person of higher status.
No.
Nope, not from a Jewish perspective. If you do good in your current lifetime, guess what? You don't need reincarnation. You're good to go, right? The purpose of doing good is to do good and to literally find completion in one's lifetime and in the afterlife. It's not about reincarnation going to a higher status. That is not a Jewish concept. Text number 6. A soul is reincarnated as a penalty for sins committed in a prior life. Nah, sort of. Penalty sounds a little harsh, but
Opportunity.
I wrote in my notes. No, it's an opportunity. It's not punishment. It's an opportunity for rehabilitation and to reclaim what was missed previously. In other words, punishment. I'm kidding. No, it's not punishment. It's tikkun. Tikkun is not the same as punishment. Fixing is not the same as punishing. Okay, 7, huh? Correct, false. True, it's false. False, correct, false. Number 7, most souls today in reincarnation, the answer is yes. It is extremely rare to find a new soul. How do we know what our mission is? Again, I can't say this enough. It's so important because if there's any takeaway, it's this. Feel what feels right and lean into it. What feels the most pressure and lean into it. There we go. So today we learned a lot about reincarnation. We studied Kabbalah's teaching that souls are reincarnated, branching one from the other. We talked about spiritual missions. Every soul has a spiritual mission. In Torah and Mitzvot, and we explained the necessity of reincarnation stemming from a soul's unfinished spiritual mission. We described each reincarnated soul as a new soul that also is empowered to fulfill the unrealized potential of its previous soul. We introduced Judaism's rejection of the idea that reincarnation is just recycling of old souls over and over again. We spoke about multiple forms of reincarnation, standard reincarnation, partial reincarnation, non-human reincarnation, and we discussed the fact that we do not have knowledge of our previous incarnations, yet we can still discern clues as to where we should focus our energies. My friends, all of this paints a powerful picture of the Jewish notion of reincarnation and directly addresses the concerns that we might have had with reincarnation. Yes, a soul that departs a body finds rest in the afterlife and in heaven, even as its unrealized potential spins off into a new soul. And no, our souls don't have baggage. They possess their own unique identity. Even as they carry on a mission or they have a mission that is connected with a prior lifetime, we don't have the baggage of that mission in the standard sense. So far from being demoralizing, this can be the greatest joy and inspiration. Think, I have a unique mission that is tied to my spiritual DNA. I'm not meaningless. I am necessary. I matter, and I matter not just to myself, but I matter to the souls that have come before me, like that relay race. By me completing that race, I not only win, I not only can achieve victory on my own, but my whole team achieves victory. And so let us remember, okay, I said I don't do Jewish guilt, but I'll make an exception. Imagine a stadium filled with our ancestors, our bubbies and zadies and their bubbies and zadies. And all the souls, all the interconnected souls, not only within the generation, but between generations, right? Vertical integration between generations. And they're waiting for us to get the job done. It doesn't just affect us, it affects them. And they're cheering us on. They passed the baton to us and we're running around. And then we're tempted to say, you know what? Do I need to finish this race? Maybe I'll drop the baton. Maybe I don't need to carry this thing of Judaism forward into my life and pass it forward. All of those in the stands are cheering us on and saying, don't drop the baton and don't stop running. Let's do it for us. Let's do it for them. Do it for me. I'm kidding. Do it for us. Do it for them. Do it for God. As Nike would say, just do it. Thank you very much for joining me today for lesson 5 thank you very much, of A Journey of the Soul. Next week, our grand finale. Can you imagine? What? Who wants this to end? Next week, our class is called Life is Short-ish, our epic conclusion. By now, we've come to appreciate death as the next phase in our ongoing mission. But what can death tell us about life right now? Next week, we'll learn about revisiting our priorities and how to fill each moment with significance. Plus, we'll learn about Judaism's radical position on the future of eternal life. Resurrection of the dead. Okay. Next week, same bad time, same bad channel. See you guys then. Pleasure. No, the soul, that's the point. It rests. It's spawning a new soul. Imagine the best analogy is, or the metaphor is the candle. I have a candle and I light another candle. So the second candle is lit from my first candle. Great. But my first candle I can now put away. The first candle is not the second candle. So when one soul spawns a new soul, a reincarnated soul, that original soul has rest. Now there's parts of it that weren't fulfilled, which serve as the kind of the seeds of that new soul. That's great. But those parts wouldn't have found fulfillment anyway because they weren't actualized, they weren't maximized. It's like a muscle. If it wasn't used, it just wasn't used. It's not maximized. So we have an opportunity to get fully complete when that reincarnated soul does its thing. But that original soul is enjoying heaven. What I picture it doing is laying on a beach chair with a margarita, or maybe whatever has a little umbrella, whatever drink that is. I'm not a big drink guy, but like a margarita has it. A pina colada, there you go, even better. Pina colada with the thing. Bye, Renee, bye, Sherry. Good to see you guys. See you next week. It has a little umbrella in it and is enjoying life. Wow, it's minions. It's reincarnated soul or a minion runs around and finishes the thing. And when it finishes, it's an extra boost. But otherwise, it's enjoying life, i.e., life after death, life in paradise. Yeah.
The third thing about the coincidence.
Yes. Yes.
But the Orthodox women could get back or something, or the plan.
Yeah, I had to run through that time. It's a great story.
They ended up doing so much good, and they wouldn't have been in that circumstance, but they're like, let's make the best of this, we're here for a reason, or I don't know what.
No, so the story, so it's a great story. Who wants to hear a great story about coincidence? You want to hear a great story? So Mindy reminded me of the story. There was a Jewish women's convention, an annual Chabad Jewish women's convention that took place one year in Detroit in the winter. Who is planning a retreat in Detroit in the winter? I don't know, but they did it. And so it was over Shabbat, Sunday afternoon, everyone has a flight back to go home for Monday, right? Be back with the family, back at work, etc. And there's a snowstorm and no flights are going out of Detroit. And so the organizers were Chabad. So what do you do back in the day when stuff goes on and stuff? So you call 770, you call this show and say, hey, we need a blessing for melting of the snow. And so basically the way it was articulated to the Rebbe was that the women are stuck in Detroit with the snowstorm. And the Rebbe's response was, stuck? No human being is ever stuck. Wherever you are, you're meant to be. If there's dozens or hundreds, whatever, of Jewish women in Detroit, you're not stuck in Detroit. You're in Detroit for a reason. Now go figure it out. And they went out to the streets and I don't think the blizzard was in Detroit. I'm sorry. The snowstorm was in New York. They couldn't take off. Sorry. Detroit wasn't shut down. New York was shut down. They couldn't fly into New York. Detroit was fine, but they couldn't get home. Most of the women from New York, the women that were not, they went home. So basically the message they got was there's no coincidence in life. There's no accidents. There's no being stuck. If you're in Detroit, great, do something. So they went out, they gave out Shabbat candles, whatever it was, they spreading the light of Judaism in Detroit.
Story about the hospital, like they were in a hospital and then they went to the hospital workers to
that might have been. It might have been. They might have gone to hospital.
Stuff. It's an opportunity.
Wherever you're, and especially when something is out of the ordinary, that's definitely a sign that God is guiding your footsteps. Like, I didn't plan on being here. There's two. You can either fight it, or you can say, "Wait a second." Fighting anything that's like out of the ordinary is a sign. It's not. I need to reject it. Reject it. It's an opportunity. Exactly. Yeah, it's a good story. All right, good. Today, listen, honestly, of all the classes, I mean, some of the classes are very heavy and reincarnation is like one of my favorite topics. I love this topic. I don't mind doing it again and again and again and again. Or reincarnation jokes. Sorry.
So was was the expert in Kabbalah in his time?
Look, there are, even today, there are Kabbalists in Israel. People are very spiritual. The Rebbe combined very keen awareness, not keen, but like brilliance in Kabbalah with every other area of Torah, with being a leader, with being like a visionary on a global level, like combined a lot of those different things in one package. But there are some like great Kabbalists that people go to.
No, I realize.
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
That letter is very powerful.
Yeah.
The Rebbe says, like, bro, like, this is literally why you're here. Don't run away from it. Like, this is why you're here for this. Like, your soul was spawned for this. Like, don't miss this opportunity.
That letter was rooted in Kabbalah, right?
It's rooted also in someone who's basically saying about themselves, I can see your soul. And I'm telling you what you need to be doing. It's That letter is, I think, unique. Not the only one, but it's a rare type of letter where the Rebbe is so definitive about a person's specific mission in life. I mean, that's like, look, on another level, all the shluchim that went out when the Rebbe was alive, had that. Like my father-in-law, for example. So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe with options of where to move to be a shliach, whatever it is. And he wrote a whole list he had like 5-6 options. And at the bottom of the list, he put Johannesburg, South Africa. You know why? Because he didn't want to go to Johannesburg, South Africa. He put it at the bottom of the list. Because like, he's from Israel. His wife, my mother-in-law, is from Montreal. South Africa, there was a relative there, but like otherwise, like off the end of the earth. 1983, 84. It's like, what does he need? He needs Johannesburg. And the Rebbe got the letter, circle Johannesburg. That's it. See you later. So on that level, yeah. So my father-in-law feels personally that, like, despite challenges that go on in South Africa and security, safety, whatever, water, electricity, basic stuff, the Rebbe literally sent him there. So you would think it's aligned with the soul's mission. Anyway, but you're right. It's a power. That letter is like gives you the goosebumps. It's like, yeah. Deborah, great to see you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure. Good. We'll catch you soon. Any questions, comments on the class? We're all good. Okay. All right. We'll see you soon, Deborah. Take care.
You.